Hi everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Yonder, Blue Yonder's podcast, where we talk all things insight and innovation and R&D. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Hannah Over, who's the innovation manager here at Blue Yonder, and also Andy Butterworth, who is the VP for R&D at Croda. Can we start by introducing yourselves?
Hello everyone, I'm Hannah. I work here at Blue Yonder, so I'm the innovation manager. My role spans across both innovation but also research. So a quant researcher by trade, so to say, but really specialising now in innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of lead our innovation tools here at Blue Yonder, so things like ClickScape, AlertYa, and also making sure internally that we've got that culture that is so core to our value here of innovation.
Okay, perfect. So I've spent 27 years working in R&D, mainly in the consumer care industry or the personal care industry. Prior to that, I did a PhD in green chemistry before green chemistry was kind of like a thing. And then so I've very much focused on innovating in the physical products. So actually kind of products you can see, you can feel, you can touch. And now my recent role, I kind of work for Croda and we create raw materials. And prior to that, I worked for a long time for Unilever. We created like shampoos, deodorants, things like that. So pretty much the formulations, the packaging, the fragrances, the kind of products you'd be very familiar with. Yeah. So very much the product side of innovation.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you, both because we've essentially got someone who specialises in creating tools and innovating from the agency side, and then someone like yourself, Andy, who's super experienced at seeing them being put into use. And we can compare and contrast and see where we get to at the end of the conversation. And I've just remembered I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Richard. I'm the Managing Director of Blue Yonder. Let's go. So first off, big question, big broad one. What does innovation mean to you? We always start with that because it's such a broad term, isn't it? What pings into your mind?
Yeah, and I've probably got a slightly different answer to most people because I don't tend to ask the question is what is innovation? I tend to kind of almost move to the next level and go, okay, what is impactful innovation? Yes. So for me, innovation is the simple thing. Yeah, it's doing things in a different way, kind of whether that be a new product, a new process, a new way of thinking about something, just to give improvement. But for me, to really make it impactful, it's then focused on the benefit, the so what. So why are we doing it? What's different about it? And what does it bring that's new and different that really makes a step change? And it's that impactful innovation that I kind of like to talk about rather than just innovation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Hannah?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's not just the process or the thing that you create, it's the impact of it, which I think it has to have an effect to be an actual innovation. I think that's something really key, is don't just innovate for the sake of it. You know, the classic don't reinvent the wheel. We don't need it. So I think that springs to mind with innovation. I think the other thing to add to that innovation is to me is also the more, I guess, emotional side of it. It's like that resilience of trying new things, being willing to take a risk. Usually doesn't work, so you try again until you get something that works. So I'm sure you can probably attest to that, Andy. Yeah. You know, you might try 10 different solutions to innovate, but you're waiting for that one that actually then has an impact and works. So I think there's a lot in resilience and innovation as well, to be honest.
Very nice. So even straight away, we've got several different themes there. So basically the context is we're looking for impact, not just nice ideas, but innovation that actually makes things happen. Let's start off by talking about culture. And you've obviously worked in a lot of different teams. In terms of the way companies work and the way teams come together, what makes good, impactful innovation?
It's a really good question. And if I knew kind of the full answer, I'd be a millionaire. I think a lot of it, there's various elements. I think for me is that it's a lot of it is about trust. Is that when you look at kind of how we kind of tend to work at the moment, it's a lot of it's focused on output, on kind of showing you're doing something. And with the innovation process, a lot of it, as Hannah says, things go wrong, things don't work, and actually there's not necessarily any output for long periods of time. So actually trusting people that they're getting on and actually making a difference is really important, because rather than kind of feeling like they need to show some output, it's like create that space where there's trust that these guys are getting on with it. I think also there's also, for me, it's an environment actually about connections as well. So how do you create connections? Because it's really difficult to innovate in isolation by yourself. I think it's really important to work out the whole thing about joining the dots. I think these great innovations come when you kind of somebody goes, you know what, there's a bit of information there, some insights there, some thoughts there. If I pull this together in a different way, actually we can do this with it. So it's about this thought of what we can do with the possibilities. And actually in isolation is very difficult. So coming together and kind of sharing information is key. And one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with now, or probably lots of companies' eyes, how do you actually recreate those corridor conversations or those coffee machine conversations where little bits of information are shared that lead to those sparks of ideas when people are kind of working kind of from home or remotely or hybrid? Is that how do you get that there? Because you can have formal sessions where you do innovation and formal discussions, but those little kind of one-off conversations I think is equally as important. So it's about harnessing that. I think is really important. And then for me, it's about also giving people space to have innovations. It's we're all just too busy doing stuff, and because you're so busy doing, it's like actually I don't have time to think about it. So a really important thing about innovation for me is the so what bit. We're coming back to the thing about benefit and impact. It's like, okay, how do I think about it? What am I going to do with this information? So creating space. So actually getting rid of some of the day-to-day stuff that we all feel kind of good about because we're doing something. We seem to be busy, and actually take that off our plate and give us a space to be innovative and creative. And probably finally, in terms of thoughts, it's about ensuring we've got the right people. Because I disagree with this idea of you need to have one department who comes up with the ideas, or one person who comes up with ideas, the creative person. I think the ideas should come from everywhere, and particularly actually the people who are actually doing the work. So if you're working on a system, the people working on the system know what the issues are. They often know they often create workarounds. So actually, how do we actually then take that learning from everywhere in the organisation and then create some solutions? So they're kind of some of the themes coming through, and sometimes you get some of those working, sometimes you get other bits not working. But if you get all that kind of together, I think that starts to create the right environment to do it.
And what are the signs? Like it's quite intangible, isn't it? What are the signs when you that help you know the culture's coming along in that direction? What do you see happening?
I think again, you're right. It's very intangible. I think it's almost like if I see somewhere that's kind of like an office and there's a buzz about the office versus it's a quiet office, people are kind of head down working. You obviously kind of go, well, it feels like that one is a more innovative space because there's sharing of ideas. I think I'm big into the sharing of ideas, and then doing the so what we're going to do with it. So this culture of what am I going to do different? How am I going to do it different? What do I need to do? I think is really important. And if I often ask the question, kind of like, why are you doing that, or why are you doing it that way? And if the answer is, well, because I've always done it that way, I hate that answer. Yeah. If the answer is kind of like, why are you doing it that way? Well, because actually here's the overall ambition, we're trying to do it, therefore we're doing X, Y, and Z. That's brilliant. So for me, a buzz about the place and energy is a good sign you've got an innovative culture. And openness, and also willingness to challenge things as well. So challenge the status quo, because that's how things get invented. By challenging this kind of normal way of doing it. It's not about creating anarchy in the office. It's about creating that environment where people feel comfortable saying, look, this doesn't quite work. I've got an idea. If we did it in a different way, this would be better. And that, for me, it starts to build from there.
Yeah. And how about in the agency side, Hannah?
Yeah, I think for us, we've got the advantage of being smaller. So, there's less sort of departments, so we can talk together more. So I think that helps us. I think it's also, we share the similar challenges as we're a client service agency, so we often have a job that we're doing and we're doing it to sort of meet the goal and meet the outcome. But I think, what you said about having the space to innovate is really important. And I think we can do a lot to role model that. So it's that sort of fail fast mentality. It doesn't matter if things go wrong, don't worry. I would actually rather see things go wrong because we tried something new, because whatever we were doing wasn't working, than just still staying frustrated and doing the same thing over and over again just because that's why, just because it was doesn't mean it should. So I think having that space and role modeling, fail fast, celebrating when things go wrong and when things go right, because I don't think with innovation it's you never, I don't have those light bulb moments where it's like, new idea and it works. It's very difficult to get to that. So like what you said about bringing different people in, I think that's really important. When we've had some of our sort of tools that we've created, that's something that I've learned definitely throughout time is is bring in all the different departments and make sure that it's working for everyone. Because from an outside point of view, it's hard to know, well, what do the consumers actually think of this? The people who we are testing, what do the clients actually think? And bringing in those expert people to tell us, okay, this will help us, this won't help us, kind of thing.
And I like your point there about kind of failure as well. So for me, is that there's an element of not needing to be perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. So I think, again, we have this culture of everything has to be perfect first time. It's like this the right first time culture. Actually, no. In this case, it's like it's almost good enough first time, and then we can iterate and build from that. I was looking just I was tidying my kind of office out the other day, and I came across an old iPod I got, and I was looking at it, and it's like, wow, that's fantastic. And I then remember it was about like the 5th iteration of the iPod, and it had the the click wheel, and it was brilliant, it's fantastic, but it didn't start off like that. So the Apple launched the iPod, which was a very similar shape, but it didn't have all the features on it. But they could have waited to get it perfect, but no, they launched. It was good enough. Lots of people bought, and then they kind of iterated and changed it again, and they changed it again, and they changed it again. So for me, often perfection is almost the enemy of innovation, in the fact that you try and get right, so it holds you back from doing stuff. So this balance of being perfect but being good enough is also really important in innovation.
Yeah,
Great point.
Yeah, that is. I think it reminds me of sort of like the MVP model we try and use, like minimum viable product. So again, when you have these ideas, thinking all the way back to what we said at the beginning, well, what is innovation? It's meeting a need, it's having impact. The iPod, the need was portable music. So it doesn't have to have the extra features and the step count and whatever it has now. It just needed to be able to have portable music. And if Apple didn't launch when they did with their MVP model, they could have waited and someone else could have come in. But they've already, let's test the concept. Does it meet the need? Yes, people like it, people want it. Then we iterate and make it better. I think, that's really important. That's something I think is quite hard with innovation though too, because it's hard to put something out that's good enough because it could be better. But for all sorts of reasons, time, budget, need, like you said, sometimes you've got to launch something. I think that's something that we try and make sure everyone in the culture knows too. So again, but this thing that you've made doesn't quite work yet. Don't worry, it will work. We just need to make sure it meets the need first, and then invest in it and make it better.
Okay, so staying quite broad though, thinking about how the innovation process has evolved client side. We talked about COVID already, which is obviously a huge one. But just thinking about like the last 10 years, how different is the way innovation gets made to happen now versus 10 years ago, if at all?
I think that the principles are the same in the fact that it's all about, we talked about confidence earlier, it's all about confidence. So you go through the same kind of like funnel where you start with your ideas, you do some more testing on it, and you kind of refine it further, and then you get towards the end. And as you progress along that kind of like that funnel or that process, it's all about getting confidence that you're doing the right thing, or confidence that actually your product is good enough, or confidence that consumers actually like it. And then, because as you get further down that innovation process, that innovation funnel, you start spending more money, you start committing more resources, so it becomes a state, I need to be confident that it's the right thing to do. So that for me remains a constant. What is changing is the fact that has to happen faster. So we're all being pushed to do things faster and faster and faster. So coming to kind of a research agency, what I need from a research agency is, guys, give me confidence that this is the right thing we're doing, that this product is the right product to launch, and I need it quickly, the answer quickly, and I need it fast, and I need to be able to be confident that what you provided is good, because then I need to then allow me to go to the next stage and spend lots of money or more money. So it's about providing the confidence to me that it's the right thing, and then also in a fast way. Sorry, a faster way, because it's all about speed.
Yeah. And in seriousness, how has post-COVID impacted that? So hybrid working and not being in the same place.
I think in terms of the innovation process, I guess once it's kind of like going, it's not about, for me it's more about the ideas. It's about what the things we should be working on is the important thing. And also it comes down to the trust element as well, because you're not seeing people aren't around as much, so you're not seeing kind of what people are doing. So getting kind of an understanding of kind of feeling for how do you build trust, and it's a lot of it is around newer people as well, I find it really difficult now difficult to actually how you bring in new members of the team. Is that how do you actually get that? When I started many years ago, I came into the office, I had a big induction program, there's a big cohort of people who started with me, and I started to build my networks in a very traditional way. Now as you come in, if you're working remotely, how do you build those networks? How do you build those connections? Because in a lot of places, that's how things get done, via the connection networks. And it's difficult. I think we need to work out how to help these new starters kind of be part of the organization. Again, so then it starts to kind of like generate the trust, generate the confidence, which all kind of big part of the melting pot. So these things are really important for innovation and general working.
It's some quite important advice for new people coming into companies or new people starting their careers there about, you're not talking about process or technical skills really, you're talking about trust, confidence, and relationships essentially. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head that relationships are absolutely kind of key to getting stuff done. So a lot of the times I find is that if the answer is black or white, it's really obvious. There's no real decision to be made. It's obvious. It's either that one or that one, and everybody agrees on it. And I think where the grayer areas, where it could be one or it could be the other, it comes down to actually, if I've got a strong relationship with person X, and if they're really pushing something, I'll go, do you know what? I'll go with you because I trust you. I believe it. Let's go with that one, because there is no black and white. If you try and boil everything down to a black and white facts thing, you don't get anywhere. So you have to have those relationships, because you have to rely on other people to go, you know what? I'm happy with that. Or likewise, if I feel really strongly about something, if I have a really good relationship with somebody and say, look, just trust me on this one, we'll go with this one, fine, I'll do it. So it's a really important nuance of getting things done, because it's not all about facts and data. There is an element of trust as well there.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you. So Hannah, thinking, it's a kind of similar question, but bringing it more into the tools and the tools of the trade from a research point of view. So last few years, summarise for us the biggest new tools and solutions in research innovation?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously AI is just rocketed, and it's something that we know our clients are challenged to use. And we're obviously challenged. I think the biggest thing from our side is the speed element. I think that's where it can help us be faster. So obviously AI and the rise of other technology as well, if we go further back. But more specifically, it's condensing down so much more information. I like to sort of think of AI as like a springboard to get us there. So it's still really important that we're the ones making the decisions and the recommendations, but actually just being able to distill down a mass amount of detail and data quicker really helps us, hopefully therefore meet our clients' needs faster. Because sometimes, especially if we link it back to innovation, sometimes it's literally just about speed. So bringing in those tools to help us be faster, because we know everything's so fast moving. So I think it's AI, I would say, is the biggest thing over the past few years. I think it is still going to be. But for me, what's really exciting about that is it can allow us that more. Using AI to distill down that much information can give us more headspace to think of the bigger picture things and make decisions and all of that fun stuff we talked about. Talk amongst your colleagues, brainstorm new ideas. Where can we meet the needs? I think that's what's really exciting. Like to come is that we'll have more time to think. Hopefully, rather than just doing the more manual tasks.
Yeah.
And more time to build the trust and confidence you were talking about before.
It's an interesting point there about AI. We're having a discussion within Croda the other day, actually, with somebody who looks after the digital program, and we were talking about kind of joining the dots as being important. And one of the things they were talking about was actually using AI to create the dots as well. So to get back to your point, because there's so much data out there, it's how do you get to the right data, and how do you use AI in a way that is kind of increases speed. So I'm a very visual person in how I kind of think. So it's image of kind of creating dots using AI, and then actually how they join those dots to come up with the ideas feels like that really resonated. I think it fits with what you're saying there as well.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So what is it from the manufacturer point of view? How have these technologies landed? Have they yet? Have they become use?
I think they are. I think it's like everybody kind of realizes that AI and digital it's the big. We have to embrace it. We have to kind of do something with it, otherwise we're going to get left behind. the big thing is actually we're not quite sure how to embrace it or what it means is and what we need to do. And I think there's a realization that data is absolutely key to use these tools, and a lot of places actually the data is just not good enough. So I think the previous company and now with Croda, I think we're looking at, okay, how do we get our data right? Because there's no point having good data if we can't then trying to apply tools because it doesn't work. So that is a big theme. So realization is really, really important, but also realization is that we need to get ourselves sorted out so we can actually exploit it fully. And I think the other thing as well is that the realization is that how do you upskill your existing people to help you with that? So if you have very kind of clear ways of doing things or certain ways of doing things within the company, if you bring in a data specialist to help with that, they don't understand kind of your ways of working, so they can't necessarily help it. So you almost need to work at how do we actually train and upskill our own people to actually understand the data, understand what they need to do, and because they understand the systems, the processes, they can actually then do a lot of that work. So I think it's this balancing act of how do we get that data right, and it's about how do we upskill our existing people to do it. And again, it comes back to empowering the right people to do it. I'm probably a long way off from being kind of like data literate or kind of like into it. So it's my role is very much about understanding that we need to do it, and how do we actually identify the people within the organisation who can do it. The next generation of people who will be kind of making decisions based on it, they can actually manipulate it, but we need to give them the skills to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading an article the other week, and we definitely wouldn't solve this challenge on a 20-minute podcast, but it's sort of our organisations around the world are all set up not for AI, and we're trying to put AI into an existing ecosystem that didn't know that AI wasn't a thing then. So actually it's sort of and it's a risk, can some organisations flip it on its head and build processes and structures around AI itself? Because we're trying to obviously bring it into something that already exists. It's actually how far can you strip back and start with AI? And obviously that's a risk. But yeah, the data challenge I think is so key. The models, the AI models are only going to be as good as your data. So I know that's a huge challenge that we've sort of listened to as well. And it's tough. It'll take some time, but I think hopefully as long as we can start seeing the impact and the benefit of the new tool, it should help us moving forwards.
I think one of the things I think you just have to invest in the time now to get it right, knowing that you might not see the kind of the return on that investment straight away, but almost if you don't do it, it's almost kind of you have to do it now. But it will take time, it will take money, it will take energy, and the returns aren't necessarily there straight away, but it just has to be done.
Yeah. Interesting to get your thoughts on the specifics of the data. So bearing in mind what you just said, which is not data literate, and myself included, but a good data set from a bad one. But how do you know when the data's ready? What is it that needs fixing before it can be handed to an AI and say, right, AI, go make sense of this? Like, what are the fundamentals to get right first?
I'm going to pass it on to Hannah and buy myself some time, because again, I'm not over data literate, but go on.
Yeah, again, not to speak out of turn either, because definitely not an expert, but what I've seen is it's the consistency in the structure of the data. I think especially even for us working with different clients, everyone asks a question in a different way, 10-point versus 7-point versus 5-point scale, all that classic thing. And then you're at a risk of having to, if you want to make that data consistent without spending a shed load of money to redo all of that work, which obviously no one would want to do, you're then having to look at things like synthetic data. And then it's the difficult balance of how much do we trust that? Is that really, when you're looking at consumers as well, and quite naive data sets, and something like fragrance, for example, it's so emotional, so subjective. How happy are we to fill in the gaps to get that consistency versus sort of, what's the lesser evil? An inconsistent data set that might train an AI model in the quote wrong way, or a data set that includes some synthetic data that's filled in the gaps. I think that, to me, feels like one of the bigger challenges is the consistency of the set itself. But
agree.
That's it, because for the AI to use it, it's all got to be there. So it's the next question is then, how do you create that? How do you fill it in? And yeah, we don't have time to solve that one today,
No.
but it is the basics. Like,
Yeah.
as has been said many times, AI is only as good as the data it's working on. Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you. I have to leave it there. Could have carried on talking for hours. But yeah, I hope everyone listening, wherever you are in the world, you found that interesting. This has been Beyond the Yonder. See you next time.